Cowherd, is Odell Beckham Jr. worth trading for?
Yes, depends on the situation. Baltimore, John Harbaugh almost got canned last year. They're chasing Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, 2 Pro Bowlers up front, Juju Smith-Schuster. They need a playmaker. San Francisco's chasing a Rams roster right now, and if they sign Ndamukong Suh with Aaron Donald, they'll have no running game. Listen, everybody's worth something in this league. A first-round pick. There's a lot of coaches out there that are on the hot seat a month in.
Look, I like the price tag, a first-round pick and something else.
Right.
They're not like the Eagles talking crazy about 2 first-round picks for Nick Foles. I like the price tag for the trade. But it's the price tag for Odell that I don't like. He wants to be the highest-paid player in the league. You're taking on that baggage as well. How long will Odell behave in a new environment, particularly if he doesn't get the kind of money that he wants? So I say no, he would not be on my trade board. I let that continue to be the Giants' problem.
Well, I would look at Odell Beckham Jr. You know, I've always believed, and I grew up in a franchise where under Joe Gibbs, it was always about, hey, we'll trade an unknown commodity, a draft pick for a known commodity, which is a great player. We'll do that all day long. So I grew up in that environment. That's how I cut my teeth in the National Football League. The issue that you get into with him is, you know, production versus problems. There's an equation, and when the problems outweigh the production, that's an issue. Coming off a broken ankle, I don't know what he's going to be. Now, if you can rent him for a year, let me see how he operates if I rent him for a year. Here's the crazy thing, though. Will there be partners? Will there be people reaching out to the Giants? You darn well know there will be a bunch of teams that reach out to him. Why? Because there's a lot of teams stupid enough to believe they're one wide receiver away from winning a world championship, right? That's a completely dependent position.
That's where
the wide receiver position, you've got to have a quarterback. You've got to have an O-line. You've got to have all those things to be.
Side, Colin.
No, he's arguing Baltimore is delusional enough to think they're this close.
Okay. And that is straight delusion, because how many franchises have ever been taken to a Super Bowl by a diva wide receiver?
None.
Sure, they've been parts of the puzzle, they've been pieces, but you've never built a team around a wide receiver. It's the position you don't do. It does feel like this is becoming almost more likely than not that he is going to get moved from New York. I feel like Dave Gettleman's come in there and he said, you know what, he moves JPP. He's kind of clearing some of the pieces out of the locker room because, hey, if you're a new general manager, what better time to do it than right when you walk in the door?
Yep.
And if I am him, I am taking those calls all day. But I would take Eli Manning, pull him aside, and said, what do you think we should do? How valuable is he to your career, to your success? Can we corral him in? You know, contracts aside, just from the straight locker room culture.
You had me till you brought up Eli.
Why is that?
Why do they care what Eli thinks?
Because he's the quarterback. That is the position you build around.
He's part of the problem. I don't consult with him. Listen, here, the takeaway to me is, why is this story leaking right now? And why is the price tag a first-round pick and something else? They're throwing a trial balloon out there, and they're desperate to get rid of him. Because when you set the price that low, again, no one's going to jump over that. They're going to, oh, hell. You know, it doesn't take 2 first round. So let me offer a high top of the second-round pick and some, you know, starting player and see. The Giants want to get rid of Odell. They're not consulting with Eli. Hopefully they're drafting a quarterback and moving on.
Only 25, so we know. And his numbers with Eli were at times spectacular. Let's not go crazy here. Let's not marginalize him to pedestrian receiver.
No, he's a top receiver.
Top 3, easy.
He's phenomenal. The record with or without, without him, Eli Manning is 5-12.
Without Eli or without Odell?
Without Odell. Eli without Odell, 5-12. With him, 21-26. Huge jump, but still under 500.
That shows you the Giants have a lot of issues.
So these are always, and that's the thing. When you look at the Giants roster in totality, their offensive line stinks. Their running game stinks. Like, the other receivers are average. Their linebacking core is average. I mean, they've got other holes to fill. They've gotten rid of their best pass rusher in JPP. They've got some holes that they have to look at. And if you can get value for him and you can get picks for him, at this point, you want to reconstruct your roster, why not?
Danny, I want to ask you this, and we don't have a lot of time, but when I hear you all talk about Odell, I hear you all putting him in the same category as peak Randy Moss. And I just don't believe that. Randy Moss was a guy, Everywhere he showed up, records fell. Teams went 15-1. One team went 16-0. Quarterbacks set records. Odell, to me, is not the same as Randy Moss, peak Randy Moss.
I agree with you. Randy Moss is arguably one of the best of all time. I think Odell is one of the best in the league right now. I think you put him up there with Antonio Brown. You can compare him to him. They're very similar in what they do, the style with which they play. But it's not, I agree with you. Because Randy Moss, the guy I played with, he was at Florida State, best sheer athlete I've ever seen. And Odell Beckham is a freak, but he doesn't take over games the way Randy does from a physical nature standpoint, throwing it up for grabs. He's quicker and speed-wise. He can make huge plays, but I don't think he's as dominant.
Oh, Whitlock, you still think Robert Kraft supports Belichick? 100%.
Yeah, I do think Robert Kraft supports him 100%. I don't think Tom Brady and the rest of the New England Patriots and Malcolm Butler and a bunch of other players around the league, I don't think they trust Belichick 100%. I think Robert Kraft has appropriately said, I got to judge the whole 18-year relationship, and it is marvelous. He's made a gigantic error here in the Super Bowl. I'm going to let it go. And he's saying that, hopefully he's trying to set a tone with Tom Brady and everybody else. Let's let it go. Our guy made a brain fart in the Super Bowl. Let's let it go. I don't blame Brady and the other players for not letting it go. Because if they had done something as stupid as what Belichick had done, he wouldn't let it go.
Well, Brady threw a pick-6 against Atlanta, so people make mistakes. They're human.
That's an in the moment. This guy had a 3-hour football game to figure out he had blown the damn Super Bowl by benching this kid. Brady makes a mistake in the moment.
Okay. You do get the Patriots' last 4 drives were touchdown, 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 driving for a touchdown fumble. Let's remember, this Super Bowl looked like all New England Super Bowls. Somebody else had it or they had it with 2 minutes left. Let's contextualize this
41 points, Nick Foles, looking like Roger Staubach.
Okay,
You got a DB that's won you Super Bowls sitting on the bench.
But this Patriots defense was not that great. It's not like this was an epically great defense that was shutting people down all year. And Nick Foles was slicing and dicing everybody throughout the playoffs, so it wasn't that unique. This is a situation to me. I think Bill Belichick did get cute. I don't think he should have benched him, but I don't think it was the end of the world. But I think it's interesting because I think Kraft supports Bill Belichick 100% as long as Brady does. And I think it's amazing how far we've come from the Guerrero scandal. Remember, it was like, oh my gosh, this Patriots dynasty is over. It's run its course. I firmly believe that once they kind of took a deep breath, stepped back, they would say, we have had this incredible run, and we would be crazy to give up on it now. And I think you're seeing a little bit of this is a little bit of kind of making up for some stuff that was said and kind of putting water under the bridge and moving forward from here as a group and as the dynasty that they've built.
Right, a little bit of rallying the troops. Everything's going to be okay here. And I look at this. Robert Kraft, of course he respects, of course he supports Bill Belichick 100% because, like you said, this 18-year run has been phenomenal. You don't have to like your coach. I'm sure there are probably plenty of things and idiosyncrasies about Bill Belichick that guys don't like. I guarantee you they respect his ability to coach. He always has them prepared, and you talk to anybody. Aqib Talib, I had a long conversation with Aqib Talib about Bill Belichick. I'd love to go back and play for Bill Belichick. The guy is incredibly intelligent. The guy always has us prepared, always has us ready to play. And there is no stone left unturned. There never seems to be a surprise. You know, that whole do your job and that whole, the little things kind of mantra, that's what they respect about him. So the respect is there. You don't always have to like the guy that you play for. You damn well better respect him. And there's nobody that has more respect in this league than Bill Belichick as far as coaches are concerned.
I think for Belichick to operate the way that he has for the last 18 years, what has to be in place is the belief that Kraft is trying to restore. Everything that he does is about what's best for the team. And this broke that bond of trust. The Malcolm Butler decision, in my view, was not about what's best for the team. It was an explosion of Bill Belichick's ego, and it blew up in his face. And I think Bill Belichick's the greatest coach in NFL history. But his ego blew up in a way that, to me, undermines the trust. And the reason why Bob Kraft is coming out and making these statements, he's trying to restore that trust because he knows it's been shaken. If you coach the way that Belichick does, my way or the highway, we'll get rid of anybody if it's best for the team. you better live it yourself every day. And he didn't live it on a Super Bowl Sunday. And I don't blame Brady or anybody else on that team that's now looking at him with a side eye.
Why doesn't Belichick get an ego? Robert Kraft is 90. He's hanging out in Hollywood on the weekends. Brady's got a moat in one of his houses, or used to. It's okay. Belichick is, after 18 years, Phil Jackson didn't have an ego? Why doesn't the coach ever get one? The star gets one.
Because he tells his entire team, put your egos aside. And so, again, let's say I was a nutritionist. You don't get to go to In-N-Out Burger if you're a nutritionist. You got to live it because that's what you're preaching. His whole foundation is built on that. Put your egos aside, do your job, what's best for the team. And then also, but not me.
But how could this go back as far as the Guerrero stuff and everything else we talked about on this show? It's the first time I've ever felt like his authority, Bill Belichick's authority, was circumvented to some degree by the owner. We're going to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. The Alex Guerrero stuff and all that. Is this in some way of like I think you're saying is Robert Kraft saying, wait a minute, you know what? This has been fractured to some degree. Yeah, that might have been a bad decision, the whole Malcolm Butler deal. But let me give you back the authority and let me make sure my players understand that you are in charge.
That's not.
I think he makes a
damage
great
control.
Yeah,
It's damage control. But trying to move on.
I think you make a great point, Mark, in terms of something may have triggered Belichick to make a mistake. Here's a guy we've seen walk the tightrope for 18 years and never fall off, and then did the Guerrero thing screw with his ego to the point, and maybe Kraft realized that it triggered his ego.
There was a lot of we talked about this. You
Tons of
had
noise.
the Guerrero
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
You had the ESPN piece. Bill's human. I mean, there's a lot of noise going on, and maybe he snapped, and he's just like, bad week of practice, guy's been sick, out. Listen, Tom's
He owes an apology.
to who?
To his team
Oh,
and to his
come
fan
on.
base. He owes an apology.
That is not
He
happening.
does.
Hey, you had a bad segment months ago. I never got an apology.
I don't have bad segments.